You're live.
Welcome to the show, everybody. You know, we've been waiting for you all week. We always miss you when we don't get to see you. Monday seems like so far away between Mondays. But as you know, my whole focus is on spirituality, the world that we can't necessarily see or hear or measure with a ruler or put it on a scale and weigh it. But it is definitely there. So we have a guest with us today, Tricia McCannon, and she is going to be talking about how she is a renowned American clairvoyant, historian, author, and teacher who has traveled the whole world. And she's been searching for the answers to the greatest mysteries of the ages. She's here to talk with us today about these mysteries, her books, mystery schools, Christianity, and Native American wisdom. I mean, she knows and does it all. She happens to be a very personal friend of mine. I love her dearly. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Tricia. I got my tongue all wrapped up in the mystery schools and the historians and all that.
It's such a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me on.
So Tricia, I just want to get right down to it because this is so interesting. Tell us a little bit about the mystery schools. I know that you're working with that now. You're actually working with one in Atlanta. Is that correct?
Yes, I've had my mystery school, which is called the Phoenix Fire Lodge, for about 12 years. And about 3 years ago, I finally got the first 12 classes up online. They're each like 100 to 180 pages with all sorts of processes and exercises, a table of contents, about 100 different images for each one. And they really blend in a very easy to understand way the Egyptian mysteries, the Celtic mysteries, the Native American twisted hair tradition, the goddess mysteries, the ancient mysteries of the goddess, and a Gnostic or mystical Christianity, because I definitely consider myself a Christian, just the universal or expanded version. And as you know, I've written a book on the lost years of Jesus and where he went during those 30 years that nobody really knows what happened before his ministry. And he was, of course, all connected with the mystery schools. And I've written a book on the divine feminine and how important that is to bring it upward in the balance of the world today in order to heal our planet. And this is, of course, a big subject you and I both know a lot about. Yeah. And I'm hoping to take a group on a Magdalene tour, actually, to the south of France, maybe at the end of this year. So if anyone's interested in going, by all means, you know, you can go to my website, triciamccannon.com, and, you know, my phone number's there, and you can contact me. I can only take a limited number of people, but it should be fun.
Oh, it sounds like a great time. And, you know, the feminine wisdom has percolated back up to the top of our consciousness now, and it's amazing how women are more empowered than they ever were before, and they're really starting to stand in that power and speak their truth. And I think one of the people who were so important in human civilization was Mary Magdalene. She got it.
Incredible. And of course she was maligned by the church, and the only reason that for whatever it is 1500 years we've thought that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute is because Pope Gregory actually in his 33 homily around 588 AD actually said, well, basically there was this expensive spikenard. It's very expensive. How could she have gotten the money to have anointed Jesus with his feet and his head, which was an ancient rite, by the way, of kingship that the high priestess gave to the king, well known in the ancient world, but 6 centuries later, pretty covered up. So he said the only way is she must have gotten the money through, you know, forbidden acts as she anointed her flesh. And because of this, for the next 1500 years, poor Mary Magdalene was considered, you know, just a wayward woman that Jesus saved and threw some devils out of. And the whole story's got, you know, really twisted around. And of course, in 1979, the Catholic Church came out and said, oops, sorry, she wasn't really a prostitute. We made a mistake. sorry about that. But of course, many people who haven't followed this evolution of the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi texts and these Gnostic texts that are closer to the time that when Jesus was actually walking this planet, they have no idea that he taught about the divine Father, Mother, God. That's the Abba, Amma. That's what he said. We've turned it into God the Father, and it was God the Mother, Father. Or that he talked openly about the divine Father, the divine Son, and the divine Daughter, who he says periodically come to earth together, even as I and Mary Magdalene have come this time to help the world. And he actually predicts that he cannot return until the divine feminine is re-enthroned in the world. Now, that's a big statement. Because we see what's going on right now with the patriarchy. They have a war on Terra, T-A-R-A, the divine mother, Terra, the planet. And that's exactly what they're doing in all these crazy energy decisions of abolishing the EPA. And they have a war on ISIS. That terrorist organization doesn't call itself ISIS. They call themselves ISIL. So, I mean, it's all to plant this sort of resistance to the divine feminine, I think, in the subconscious. And I hope they won't do many more of a smear campaign on Mary Magdalene or Mary the Mother or Sophia, which was the Hebrew and the Greek name for the goddess, the divine mother, energy of wisdom. So I'm very much someone who has done the historical research, the archaeology, the anthropology, the hidden text, the things from the Vatican secret library. And I footnote, as you know, all my books. I mean, 1,200 footnotes,
Oh, you do.
500 footnotes, 100 pages of back matter. And it's a fun book. It's an easy read, and it's got over 100 illustrations in each book. So, as you know, I wrote a book on angels, the dialogues with the angels, the Jesus book, which you can just Google Tricia McCannon and Jesus, and it'll come up. And also Return of the Divine Sophia, Healing the Earth Through the Lost Wisdom Teachings of Jesus, Isis, and Mary Magdalene, where we really understand how the ancient mysteries are connected and were connected all along with the Christed mission. And in fact, those masters in 5 different countries had been waiting on him to come for over 500 years. In the East, he was acknowledged as the second Buddha that the first Buddha had predicted would come 500 years later. And in the Celtic lands, they had a god for each age, and they said the god that would come for this age, 2,000 years ago, was called Yeshu. Now, what are the odds about that? Yeshu. Really? I mean, pretty close, huh?
It is.
And then, of course, the Persians were waiting on him because Mithra had predicted his coming. He was called the Sarashant in that tradition. And he was considered in Egypt as the reincarnation of the next line of the noble Horus kings, the keepers of truth, those that hold the torch of illumination high for others to follow and to see, and to reconnect with that divine spark within themselves. So I know I just said a mouthful, but
yeah, it was great. That was a great mouthful. So, how can our audience find your books and your work?
Well, of course, everything's on Amazon and everything's in the bookstore because, I publish through Inner Traditions and Hampton Roads and Red Wheel, Weiser Canary, very legitimate publishers. But you can also go directly to my website where I have about 30 DVDs that are all on these mysteries. Most of them are 2 hours, very professionally done, $20, very inexpensive, an enormous body of work going through the Egyptian mysteries, the Jewish mysteries, the goddess teachings, all of those. And I also have the classes, the Phoenix Fire Lodge, and each one of those I actually have dedicated a whole page to with an excerpt and table of contents and in the introduction, so you can really get a feel and a flavor for them before you even start to study. And you can just take one class and see if you like it, or you can take the first 3 and then order the next 3 and the next 3 as you go along. So I have the first year of study up, actually 1.5 years. It's 12 classes.
Wow.
And some people go through them in like 4 months. And other people take their time and they take a year, 1.5 years to study them. So everyone can go at their own pace.
And that's nice. So they don't have to be in a classroom with other people. This is almost like an independent study.
It is an independent study class. It is. And in fact, there's a whole questionnaire at the end of every single class that if they choose to mail it in, of course, it's their choice about how far they go in their own mastery. That's always all of our choices. But if they choose to send it in, and if they want to, they can come and actually be ordained as a priest or a priestess. I have been a bishop in the Madonna ministry for 20 years. And of course, I'm initiated in all these ancient paths. And so it's my pleasure to work with people that are interested in, really grounding their spirituality. The mysteries we know were taught for over 4,000 years before Jesus and over 400 years after Jesus. They were even being taught at the time of Alexandria in the neo-paganism times, which was up to about 400 AD. So this was, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, all of these are members of this, let us say, great white brotherhood of masters that have been working for the illumination of the human race from behind the scenes in certain ages, as they have had to go underground for the last 1,500 years. And now that wisdom is beginning to return to the planet. And gosh, do we need it right now?
We really do.
We
So
do.
you do psychic and soul readings, and so is there some way that you can tell us what the similarities are and what the differences
Yes.
are? And I noticed somebody just gave me a question in chat, so that's why I kind of was off for a second. But yeah, they're interested in this too. So tell us a little bit about the psychic and soul readings, the similarities, the differences, and do you do them?
Yes, I've done over 6,000 readings for people all around the world, and I do about half my work on the phone and half in person, and I also do a lot of healing work with people. I even have a client in all this week from New York that I'm working with for 5 days straight in peeling back layers. So that's always wonderful. Readings, there are different levels of psychics, and rather than good psychics or bad psychics, the way I would tend to look at it is people have their spiritual antenna pointed in a certain direction. Some people are stock market psychics. That's a great thing. Some people, like John Edwards, is so brilliant at talking to the spirits of the dead. Other people are primarily interested in your romantic life. What I'm really interested in is the evolution of the soul. So I can address things like, your health or your romances or, family karma or whatever. But I like going back to where we are when we first start. And what I've discovered is that all of us actually descend from the angelic kingdoms, which is very contrary to what I've been taught. And so, of course, when I discovered that, I thought, well, what the heck happened to us? We got so turned around. So I really spent many, many years studying with these great masters and learning how to really track the soul down from the highest levels to where it is in this lifetime, find its soul themes, look at what it's what it's working to master, where it might be stuck, what its purpose is, what are its strengths and challenges, because we all have them. And if we can understand what we're doing down here and what our strong suits are, it really helps us to get a plan together for highest service, making the most of our time here.
I agree. So
usually my readings are that you started off as being, an hour, and then quickly they became 90 minutes, and I'd leave 30 minutes between, and then they became 2 hours. And now many people want like 3 hours. So I realized that you can't even start unless you have at least 2 hours, because we're very complex, multidimensional beings. There's a lot to say about us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. And I remember when I used to do the readings on one of my other radio shows, we would have people calling in from Saudi Arabia, Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. I mean, it's amazing how many people really need just a little bit of wisdom about what they need to do. And sometimes you can't get out of your own way. You've got to get somebody to help you. And that's where somebody who knows what they're doing with readings is so, so important. So we did have a question that came in.
Okay.
Is there an indication of when we will achieve feminine energy equality? An example, balance.
That is such a great question. And of course, no one really knows the future because we're writing it. So even if you're a psychic, you can say, I see we're going to achieve it in 2 years. I don't think that's going to happen. Really, thank you. But I mean, I think around the year 2100, when I check in, that's really kind of what it feels like. And so we're part of the foundational wave, and our mothers were. I mean, if you think about it, we got the right to vote in America in 1922, and that's been the same all over the world. I think Sweden got it in 1975. There are still so many incredibly beautiful sisters out there who are really in slavery, especially sexual
they don't
slavery.
even vote yet. Yeah, look at the Middle East. They're not voting.
Right. So I think it's going to take us a while. And I think first off, we have to awaken the divine within the female and remind her that she is worthy and she doesn't have to be abused. And then we have to educate the men. And of course, there's some wonderful men who are coming online with this. I mean, your husband happens to be one of them who's writing about the divine feminine Peter. He's a marvelous man. And there are more and more and more wonderful men out there. I just went to see that Eve Eisler incredible vagina monologues, which I was like, I'm from the South. I'm like, we don't say those words. And there was a monologue too. And it was a group of men that had performed this incredible presentation on the different toxic ways that men have considered women as, a piece of ass. And I mean, those men were so brilliant and they were so brave and they were so supportive of saying we have to change our culture from the inside out. And, bravo. Bravo.
Absolutely. Yes. So I know that I want to get this in before we run out of time. I know you have an online event coming up. Tell us a little bit about that and how can our audience find your event?
Thank you. It is actually this coming Saturday, March 4th, 2017, and East Coast time, it's 3 to 12. And I have a banner on my front page about it, but it's all about Mary Magdalene and the rise and the healing and her secret history, where she went, what she taught, because the Gnostics kept over 250 sayings that she had, just like Jesus had these sayings that are very, very profound and beautiful and totally acknowledging to him, by the way, for those of us who still think Jesus is wonderful. So if they want to register, they can come to my website, triciamccannon.com, and click on that banner on the front page. It'll take you to a page where it tells you about it. And then you can click on the company that's doing it is called portaltoascension.org. And I have the link on my site, the bottom of the page about Mary Magdalene. So portaltoascension.org, like an organization. So if you forget for some reason, triciamccannon.com, or you go to the banner and you have to wait for the things to scroll. I've actually archived, I've been doing a number of webinars recently, very powerful programs on the lost years of Jesus, on the angels and the Anunnaki gods that came down here, also one on fairies and strange archaeology, and those are all archived at portaltoascension.org. And so the banners are on my website. Click on those, take you to the page. And then probably in New York, the first weekend in April, I'm going to be up there doing a whole weekend on Atlantis and America, and where we are at a very similar point in the world now to where Atlantis was. How we were crossing the galactic equator going down before, and now we're crossing it going up. How we were making some of the same mistakes with things like Monsanto Terminator seeds. They probably called them something different then, but genetic engineering and GMOs with the food, and basically breaking the sacred chain of life, and how, the galactics are not really interested in having us have a crash and burn like we had in Atlantis. So that weekend is going to be at the Edgar Cayce Center in Chelsea. So if anyone's interested, again, there's something on my website about it. You can check it out and call them and register. We only have room for about 50 people top. So if you're in New York or New Jersey, I would urge you to check that out for the first weekend in April.
Well, it would be nice to know that we learned enough not to make the same mistakes we did when we were in the Atlantis.
We have to go back 12,000 years to the Stone Age and start over. I know. Think we have got to learn these lessons, and it seems like it's very hard for us humans. We have a short memory,
We do. We have a very short memory. We tend to forget what we don't want to remember. It's almost selective. Selective memory loss is what I call it.
Right. Greed and power is a high motivator for just ignoring the facts, isn't it? Right.
Yes. So we have another question that came in. Somebody would love to hear how ET is involved in our destiny. How are they?
Oh, wow. That is one kind of amazing question. We could just talk for 2 hours on.
Well, we could probably come back and do a whole segment on just ETs, couldn't we?
We should. We totally should. And then in the fall, I have that new book coming out that we should do something on the map of heaven and the landscapes of heaven. Okay, let me see if I can answer this very quickly. First, we live in a multi-dimensional reality. So some ETs are third dimensional, just like us, and they have nuts and bolts spaceships and come down here just like us. And some ETs are more fourth dimensional or fifth dimensional, but they know how to shift their molecular structure to where they can become third dimensional if they need to. Some of those beings we might even call angels because they're at such a high spiritual level. And I'm sure some of them can shapeshift and show up with wings or not, materialize or not. I definitely have had those experiences myself. So what we think of as angels do exist, but it's a very complicated question. So first off, I think that, this planet was seeded from the amoeba level, and it grew and grew and grew and expanded, and probably those higher dimensional angelic beings came down here and shaped things. But then eventually we've also had extraterrestrial visitors from the Pleiades, from Sirius, from Andromeda, from Orion, from Nibiru. So it's a complicated picture. In fact, I'm trained in a secret tradition that talks about the 12 extraterrestrial races that seeded the planet Earth. And I have a friend named Alex Collier who believes they're 22. So we've clearly been pretty busy down here on this planet during the ages. And I think that there are beings that are very interested in us making this next leap in our evolution. The Galactic Federation, there are over 100 member worlds there. They are about peace. They are about helping each other, and not about making war, and not about coming and taking over our planet. And it's really unfortunate that this social political agenda that's been going on in the mainstream of politics that didn't really want us to know about this, because then we start asking questions about, well, where did they come from and how did they get here? Oh, there's free energy? Oh, you mean we don't have to use gas and oil and coal? Oh, so the power elite go out of power. Oh, they've been here before? Could they be like angels? Then religion's scared is going to go out the window. So when you start asking the question, the power elite is very, concerned about the deeper questions and what it could lead to in the changes of society. And so they've been sort of behind the scenes, kind of back engineering the technology to try to catch us up so that when this comes out, we'll feel like we're, not backwoods hillbillies. We'll feel like we're, hey, we're cool too. We got some technology. We're smart. We can keep up with the Joneses, the space Joneses, so to speak. Yeah. I hope this is entertaining. This is a very funny way of talking about this conversation.
But that's great. And the person who asked the questions wrote in here, amen, thank you. So, we're going to have to come back and really talk about just this subject area because it's so broad.
We have seven people in the chat room that all have something to say. We want to hear it too.
Yes, we do. So, we believe it or not, we are down to our last 2 minutes for a full half an hour show. We just went through 30 minutes.
Listen, you and I can talk for 2 hours, and it would be like that. What was that movie, My Dinner with Andre, where you think it's going to be boring, but you just can't even get up to go to the bathroom because it's so fascinating. That's how it is having a conversation with you. Oh, and your audience is wonderful.
Oh, our audience is fantastic. And so, audience, this is for you. What I know that this seemed like a very short show, but it was actually a double show. And I am going to be vlogging this show. And the vlog is going to be available to you. I'm going to put it on Pathos. And once Pathos publishes it, I'm going to put it on my website, and I'm going to put it on my social media pages, and I'm going to send it to Tricia, and she's going to put it on all of her social media pages. So you guys are going to be able to read it and see it and watch it.
That's great. And I hope that we get to do this soon because it's fun. It's very fun with you, Kat. You're wonderful.
Well, thank you, Tricia. I really appreciate that. So it is time to say goodnight. And I want to thank Tricia again for being with us.
Can you remind them of my website one more time?
Sure. Why don't you give it to him one more time? And what I'm going to do is, don't worry, don't go running for pencil and paper, guys,
Okay.
because I'm going to have the website in the blog.
Okay.
Okay.
It's my name, Tricia McCannon, Tricia. It's that spelling, McCannon, just like it sounds, Mac, MC, Cannon, Cannon. And you can put TriciaMcCannonSpeaks.com or TriciaMcCannon.com. Either one will get you there. So, and once you're there, you'll have a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool stuff on that site.
It
Free
is. I've
stuff
been
too.
there. I was there. It was like I was there for a whole day. I was just having fun playing. But from your site, they can contact you if they want to contact you, right?
Yeah, I actually have my phone number. I'm one of the few people in the entire world on the internet that's willing to put their phone number out there because I really genuinely love my clients, and the people who call me are wonderful, and I feel grateful to be able to talk to them. It's just whether I have the time. So, you can also email me. My email's on there. Happy to talk to you.
Great. So thank you again, everyone, for being with us this evening. You can go to www.newearthtelevision, and you can also go to my Facebook page where all of my shows are archived and stored. You can go back and see them, and that's the Kat, K-A-T, Kanavos, K-A-N-A-V-O-S show. And that's on Facebook. It's the only one there that's Kat Kanavos Show. So just Google it and I will come up, and we hope to see you again next Monday. So until then, have a great week. And remember, we miss you when you're not here. So
and listen, any of you that have written in the chat, if you want to write me, be sure to put in the tagline from Kat's show, and that way I'll know.
Great.
Thank you so much, darling.
Okay, thank you. Good night, everybody. Bye.